Our Christian lives must be a constant dying and rising. My dear friends, as we begin the most solemn week of the year, of the liturgical year, the Palm Sunday or Passion Sunday, it's a story of the triumph and tragedy of the life and the death and resurrection of Jesus, as well as our own personal lives. The death and rising of Jesus is what we celebrate during this week. A mere commemoration of the death and resurrection of Jesus will not make any sense unless we ourselves participate in that death and rising of Jesus in our own personal lives. Our Christian lives must be a constant dying and rising. There are so many contradictions in our life. There are moments when we are elated with joy and we are so happy and enthusiastic about certain experiences and events in our life. And yet there are moments when we feel terribly sad and we feel disappointed and disillusioned, and everything looks so gloomy in our life. And we often question about the existence of a loving God in those moments. And going through the experience of Jesus' last days on earth, identify himself with him who identified totally with all the profound experiences of human beings, gives a better insight and better tolerance and better acceptance of the human realities of suffering, death, and joy. The same people who welcomed Jesus and received him as almost like a triumphant king or a victorious king are the same people who a few days later shouted and cried out for his crucifixion. Yes, if this is what also happens in our life, at one moment we are so eager to follow Jesus and we are so happy to accept him as our King and Lord, and there are moments when we feel we are weak, when we are tempted, when we are assailed by doubts, when we are tormented by the tragedies of human suffering, then we begin to question. But one thing that really stands out in the midst of these great events that Jesus goes through in his life, his triumphal entry into Jerusalem and his sorrowful journey to Calvary, which we listen to from the Passion narrative of St. Luke, we find that Jesus, who was welcomed as King, remains steady as he moves toward Calvary. He remains faithful till the very end. He continues to trust and believe in the providential love of his Father. And he obeys him and he carries out his will and fulfills it most faithfully, even in the darkest moments of his life. My dear brothers and sisters, as we go through the crucible of suffering, as we go through those events and experiences that really make us question everything in our life, even sometimes doubting if there is in the benevolence, in the goodness of a God who allows all these things, only one thing remains. We may not have answers to all the perplexing questions of our life. But God wants us to remain faithful through thick and thin, and to follow Him, and to believe Him, and trust in Him, knowing that beyond the gates of suffering and death, there awaits us the triumph of the resurrection.